Welcome to this video podcast that was voted one of the best in the marketing research industry, first in 2019 and again in 2020. And this year, it's been designated by FeedSpot as one of YouTube's very best places to go when you're looking for up-to-date market research information. This is Research Business Daily Report. We're seen most Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, presenting a news item that most likely has not been seen or heard by you before. Now, we do rely on viewers' support, and we'll talk to you at the end of today's RBDR about what you might be able to do to help us in that regard. I'm Bob Lederer, and I'm in my 27th year as the respected voice in market research. First of all, to all you loyal RBDR viewers, I want to say thanks for tolerating a month of Best of RBDR videos during the month of June. We think there was a lot of quality material, and hopefully you saw some that you might have bypassed the first time around. But you couldn't avoid seeing in our messaging with each video posting that we had to find ways to cope, and we want to tell you it had to do with the unavailability of our regular IT professional who does a great job of putting final touches on each and every RBDR. On a personal level, during the month, I developed my first case of COVID, and we've all heard some scientists claim that everyone on Earth is going to deal with it at least once, so perhaps it was just my turn. But today we're back with a fresh, and we think we can guarantee an episode that will be of interest to you. It's about neuroscience, one of the newer technologies and methodologies in our industry. But in the field, we just happened to come across one extraordinarily unique agency. Immersion President Scott Brown got our attention because of his enterprise's partnership with the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. You're going to hear about that today, including how that collaboration came about some years ago, the guidance that Immersion received from the CIA about the most vital elements in its process, and a lot more.
So about 20 years ago, our founders, Dr. Paul Zak and Dr. Jorge Barraza, started doing research on this neurochemical in the brain called oxytocin. It's the chemical related to love and trust and bonding between a mother and a child. So they did about 5 years of research there, found this interesting connection between oxytocin and economic behaviors, all doing blood draws and crazy things, wrote a few books and got kind of famous. But then the CIA called. Now, the CIA said, "We love all this science, Dr. Zak, but could you do it in reverse? If we showed you some flyers that we want to drop in foreign lands, could you help us predict which one will convince people to put down their weapons?" Now, for a researcher, this is kind of a backwards problem, right? The CIA didn't care about feelings. They don't want to know if somebody's happy or sad or anger or contempt. None of that stuff mattered. They wanted a prediction engine. And so the CIA said, we have two big rules. The first is that whatever you come up with has to be published science, peer-reviewed, proven in a third-party lab. And whatever you discover, we have to be able to deploy in the battlefield. So you can't roll 35 MRI machines out into the desert, right? You can't do blood draws on soldiers every 100 yards. There had to be a different way. Well, our team cashed the checks and started to go to work. It took them 12 years. And they measured every possible signal in the human body that you could imagine. They did all the MRIs and EEGs and tens of thousands of blood draws. And because we were working with the US government, we were the only team authorized to inject humans with synthetic oxytocin and actually watch how their behavior changed. So we could map the pathways between the neurochemicals in your brain and the changes it makes in the rest of your body. And through that, we were able to discover that when you and I fall in love, when we make a crucial decision in our life, these neurochemicals, dopamine and oxytocin, fire in your brain and actually change the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. It changes the way your heart beats. Now, it's not about faster or slower. It's not heart rate. It's not heart rate variability. But there's something else that happens in between every heartbeat. And our guys figured out how to identify first that this change was happening and then track it backwards. So today, we can actually use an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a Samsung smartwatch, listen to somebody's heart, and directly measure the levels of oxytocin and dopamine in somebody's brain. And from that, we can predict things like buying, sharing, and downloading with over 80% accuracy. It's a crazy story. What we're actually measuring is the combination of attention and emotional resonance. Think of it like measuring what your brain values. Now, what we know from 50, 60 years of neuroscience now is that happiness or sadness or anger, that doesn't actually predict behavior. It's an emotion, it's interesting, but it's not actually important. Your brain categorizes things for long-term memory as something that I needed to attend to, and it had emotional value in my life. And so when those two things happen simultaneously, that's what codes it in our brain and changes our behavior. And so Immersion, my company, is measuring exactly that, the combination of attention and emotional resonance that predicts behavior, unlike somebody smiling or laughing or crying. None of that actually predicts. And so while emotions matter, they matter as a signal of valuing, not a signal of purchasing.
We're happy, and we hope you are too, that you'll hear more from Scott on Friday, including how Immersion's deliverable differs and yet is highly complementary with other neuroscience methodologies. That is a wrap on this Research Business Daily Report. As we mentioned at the start of today's video, we'd love for you to become a Patreon supporter of our series because viewer support is important to us. And being a Patreon supporter means providing a monthly contribution, which you can do by going to our exclusive crowdfunding platform at patreon.com/RBDR. And when you get there, literally select the level of support that works for you and that you think we deserve. We say thank you in advance for whatever that might be. Hoping that you have a good research day and that we'll see you back here with us on Friday. We urge you to enjoy, but more than anything else, stay safe.